Returning from vacation, I opened the door to my bedroom and froze. My in-law was sprawled on my bed, wearing my glasses as if it were his throne. My daughter-in-law, who always seemed grateful, coldly advised, "He needs space, so you move to the basement." The betrayal stung sharper than a knife. I made one phone call, and within minutes, they received an ultimatum. "Leave the house. You have 24 hours. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now." My hand found the doorknob to my bedroom, turned it. The television blared from inside, volume cranked higher than I ever kept it. A stranger's voice, gravelly and annoyed, muttered something about commercials. I pushed the door open. A man sprawled across my bed, remote control resting on his stomach, bare feet propped on my pillows, gray hair, thick neck, approximately my age. He wore my reading glasses, the ones I'd left on the nightstand 2 weeks ago. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me, standing in my own doorway, luggage still in hand downstairs, where I dropped it after noticing the unfamiliar car in my driveway. "Excuse me," I said. He clicked the remote, changed channels, adjusted the pillows behind his head. I walked to my bathroom. The door stood open. An electric razor sat beside my sink. Not mine. A toothbrush, bright blue worn bristles rested in my glass, the one I'd used for 15 years. Shaving cream, deodorant, prescription bottles, with someone else's name lined my counter. "Della." My voice came out tight, controlled. I walked downstairs, gripping the banister. She stood in my kitchen chopping vegetables at the counter. The radio played softly. She hummed along. "Della, there's a man in my bedroom." "That's Dad." She didn't look up. The knife continued its rhythmic thunking against the cutting board. "He moved in last week." "Moved in?" "Nobody asked me." "You were gone." She scraped celery into a bowl. "Dad needed a place." I stood there watching her wipe her hands on a dish towel, the casual way she turned, finally meeting my eyes. No apology, no explanation beyond the bare facts. "He needs the master suite. You understand." "I understand. This is my house." She sighed. "Set down the towel. Then take the basement. Dad needs space. His back. He can't handle stairs." "Well, the basement in my own home. After everything with Roy, you owe me that much." The words hit like a fist. Roy, my son, dead 3 years now. She knew exactly what she was doing, weaponizing his memory. I clenched my jaw, felt my molars grind together. My hands formed fists at my sides. "We'll discuss this." "Nothing to discuss." She picked up the knife again. "It's decided." I walked away down the hall to my home office, the one room that still felt like mine. I closed the door, leaned against it. The property deed sat in my filing cabinet, exactly where I'd left it. I pulled it out, spread it across my desk. My name, Calvin James Wallace. My address, my house. Purchased 23 years ago. Paid off 12 years ago. Mine. Behind the closed door, I heard Stuart's heavy footsteps on the stairs. The refrigerator opening. Ice clinking into a glass. My whiskey bottle being unscrewed. I recognized the sound of that particular cap. The creak of my leather recliner as he settled into it. Della had lived here 5 years, month to month, $300. I'd offered it after Roy died, when she said she couldn't afford her apartment anymore. Temporary, she'd promised. Just until she got back on her feet. 5 years of temporary. I sat at my desk, pulled out my phone, scrolled through contacts until I found the name I needed. Martin Cho, property attorney. My finger hovered over the call button. From the living room, Stuart's voice boomed at the television. A beer can cracked open. My beer from my refrigerator. Della laughed at something he said, in my kitchen, in my house. I pressed the button. The phone rang twice. "Calvin, it's been a while. What can I do for you?" Martin's voice, professional and familiar. "I need a termination notice sent tonight. Tenant in my home." "How long have they been there?" 5 years, month to month. $300 a month. Papers rustled on his end. And they're refusing to leave. They're refusing to acknowledge I own the house. I looked at the deed spread before me. Her father moved into my master bedroom while I was traveling. She told me to take the basement. Silence. Then Martin's careful, measured response. Oregon law is clear. Month-to-month tenancy requires 30 days notice, without cause. I can have documentation to them within the hour. Email and text. Do it. You understand they might contest this. Let them try. I forwarded Della's contact information. Martin confirmed receipt. Promised the notice before I finished dinner. I thanked him. Ended the call. Set the phone on my desk beside the deed. 47 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Martin's text. Notice sent. Check your email for copy. From the kitchen, Della's phone chimed once, twice. I heard her pick it up, the silence as she read. Then her footsteps quick and hard across the hardwood floor. She didn't knock. What is this? She waved her phone at me. Screen glowing with Martin's formal letter. Legal notice. 30 days to vacate. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. After everything I've done, everything Roy. Don't. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. This isn't about Roy. Her face flushed. You told me I could stay here as long as I needed. I told you that 5 years ago. Things change. I put money into this house. $15,000 in repairs. You've paid $300 a month. I have the records. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out the rental ledger. 5 years of payments documented and deposited. Market rate for this house would be $1,800 monthly. You've paid a fraction. Stuart appeared behind her in the doorway, still wearing my bathrobe. Navy blue terry cloth. The one my sister gave me for Christmas. You're making a mistake, Wallace. The mistake was allowing this situation to begin with. You think some lawyer letter scares me? He stepped into my office, uninvited. Della moved aside. He was bigger than me. His hands looked like they'd swung hammers for decades. I think you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. I stood up, claimed my own space behind my own desk. Or what? You'll call the police if necessary. This is my house. Leave my office. Stuart leaned forward, palms flat on my desk. You sure you want to do this? Old man living alone. Accidents happen. Is that a threat? Just pointing out facts. And threats are documented. I'm documenting everything now. I picked up my phone, opened the camera, click his face, his hands on my desk, the bathrobe that wasn't his. Everything. He straightened, smiled without warmth. You do that. Won't change anything. Della grabbed his arm. Come on, Dad. You'll regret this, she said from the doorway. Everyone will know how you treat family. You're not family anymore. You're a tenant who's been given notice. Roy would be ashamed of you. Roy would be ashamed of what you've become. Get out of my office. The door slammed. I heard them in the living room, voices low and angry, planning, strategizing. I didn't care. I walked upstairs to my bedroom, Stuart's bedroom now, temporarily. Photographed his clothes in my closet. His shoes lined up where mine used to be. The prescription bottles on my bathroom counter. Each item, each invasion time-stamped and saved. Back in my office, I created a new folder on my computer. Eviction documentation. Uploaded the photos. I printed a second copy of the property deed for my records. Made notes. June 15th, 2025. 7:43 p.m. termination notice sent. Deadline July 15th, 2025. Stuart's threat documented. That night, I slept in the guest bedroom, my own guest bedroom, in my own house. Through the wall, I heard Stuart's television, the volume excessive and deliberate. The guest bedroom alarm woke me at 6 o'clock. I'd barely slept. I gathered my things and headed to the guest bathroom. Down the hall, I heard water running in my master bathroom. Stuart using my shower. In the kitchen, Della stood at the counter pouring coffee. Did you have a chance to look at housing options? She laughed. Housing options? Calvin, I'm not going anywhere. The notice was serious. 30 days. That was just a lawyer letter. She turned back to her coffee. It means exactly what it says. We'll see about that. I grabbed my travel mug and left. Over the next several days, Stuart refined his harassment. Night 3. Music started at 11:30. Heavy bass. I knocked on the master bedroom door past midnight. Stuart opened the door. What's the problem? The music blared. This is my house. Show some respect. He grinned. Your house? Della says she owns half of it. The music got louder. I took a video showing the timestamp and volume. 12:17 a.m. master bedroom. Excessive noise. Day 6. I came home to find Stuart's truck blocking my garage door. Stuart, you're blocking my garage. No room on the street. Move your truck. Make me. I raised my phone, captured his face, the truck, my blocked garage. He moved the truck 20 minutes later. Day 6. 4:35 p.m. driveway blocked. Vehicle moved after photograph. Martin called midweek. Document everything. Photos, times, descriptions. Already doing that. I've got 40 incidents logged. Good. That shows pattern of behavior. Keep it up. How long until we can move forward? If she refuses to vacate by the deadline, we file immediately. I stayed late at coffee shops and worked from the library. Day 8. I heard Della talking to a neighbor. After all I've done for this house, I've paid for repairs, improvements, thousands of dollars. I walked away, made a note. False statements to neighbors claiming financial contributions to property. June 25th arrived. 10 days since the notice. I checked my email and found it. Subject line, retermination. Notice, official response. I read each fabricated claim. Oral agreement for lifetime residency. Significant financial contributions, totaling over $15,000. Complete lies. I forwarded it to Martin. This is good for us, he said. She's making up complete lies, which we can disprove. So what's next? File for eviction. Can you come to my office Friday? Stuart confronted me that same evening. What's with all the pictures? That's harassment. Documenting damage and violations. He stepped closer to my desk. You're making this personal. You made it personal when you moved into my bedroom. Careful, Wallace. I raised my phone between us. Say that again. On camera this time. He walked away. I added the incident to my log. Verbal threat. Attempted intimidation. Withdrew when recording began. The next 2 evenings, I organized everything. Created a timeline cross-referenced with bank statements, property taxes I paid alone, utilities in my name, the mortgage I'd paid for 23 years. 3 file folders by Thursday night. Friday, June 28th. I pulled into a spot on the 3rd level of the downtown parking garage at 8:40. Gathered the file folders. I entered Martin Cho's office. Martin stood as I entered. Calvin, good to see you. Coffee, please. Black. We settled at his conference table. I spread the 3 folders across the surface. Property documents, rent records, incident logs. Martin pulled the property deed toward him. Let's start with ownership. He examined it. 1987 purchase date. Mortgage satisfied 2013. My name alone on the title. No ambiguity. And the rental arrangement? I opened the second folder. Month to month from the beginning. 5 years of rent checks. $300 monthly. No written lease beyond the amount. That actually helps us. No lease means easier termination process. He scanned the incident log. 43 documented violations, noise complaints, property damage, harassment, all photographed and time-stamped. He read Della's email. Lifetime residency agreement. She's claiming this. Complete fabrication. Do you have anything in writing that could be misconstrued? Nothing. I offered temporary housing after my son died. She's been here 5 years. That's all. Martin nodded, opened his laptop. He was ready to file. By the end of the week, Martin filed our response, point-by-point refutation. Her claim of $15,000 in improvements. My bank statements showing I paid. Her claim of an oral agreement about the house. No written evidence, no witnesses, just her word against mine and my property deed. Della became more visible after filing her counterclaim. More confident. She'd walk through the house, making comments, just loud enough for me to hear. Glenn says we have a strong case. Stuart would respond from whatever room he occupied. About time someone stood up to him. The house should have been mine after Roy died. Everyone knows that. I said nothing, documented everything, added each comment to my incident log with timestamps. July 18th arrived. I was at Martin's office by 7:30 a.m. We went over the exhibits one last time. The clear, single-name property deed, the ledger of 60 payments totaling $18,000, the stack of my contractor invoices and bank statements for every major repair from the last 5 years. They have nothing but fiction, Calvin, Martin confirmed, tapping the stack. The judge will see this in 5 minutes. We arrived at the courthouse. Della and Stuart were already there, sitting on a bench outside the courtroom, looking nervous but defiant. Stuart wore a cheap suit that was too tight. Della avoided my eyes. They had secured legal aid, a young, overwhelmed-looking public interest attorney who greeted them with a forced smile. Our case was called. The courtroom was small, and we stood before the judge, a woman in her late 50s, impatient and efficient. Martin spoke first, laying out the timeline. Property ownership, month-to-month tenancy, proper notice given, refusal to vacate. Then Della's attorney presented the counterclaim. Your Honor, the defendant, Mrs. Wallace, asserts an oral agreement for lifetime tenancy in the family home following the tragic death of her husband, the plaintiff's son. Furthermore, she provided significant financial contribution toward improvements, totaling over $15,000, creating an equitable interest in the property. The judge looked at Della. Is that your claim, Mrs. Wallace? Yes, Your Honor. He promised me. The judge looked at me. Mr. Wallace? Your Honor. Martin cut in. We have prepared a packet of documents refuting these claims. Exhibit A, the property deed, showing sole ownership by Mr. Wallace since 1987. Exhibit B, bank statements showing all major repairs, the roof, water heater, windows, were paid by Mr. Wallace. We have the canceled checks and contractor invoices attached. The entire sum Mrs. Wallace paid over 5 years was $18,000, which is rental income at a steeply discounted rate. There is no evidence, written or otherwise, of a verbal agreement. Her claims are demonstrably false. The judge took the packet, flipping through the contractor invoices first. Her gaze was clinical. She set the stack down. Mrs. Wallace, the judge said, her voice dry. I see here a claim for a $4,800 roof repair paid by a check from Mr. Wallace's account in 2022. I see a payment for new windows, also paid by Mr. Wallace. Your financial contributions are documented as $300 a month in rent, which is not unusual for a month-to-month tenant. Furthermore, the property deed is unambiguous. There is no legal basis for a lifetime residency claim, and no evidence to support your assertion of equitable ownership. She slammed her gavel once. The defendant's counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff, Mr. Wallace. She turned to the young attorney. Your client is ordered to vacate the premises within 72 hours. If she and the additional occupant, Mr. Morrison, are not gone by noon on Monday, July 22nd, the sheriff's department will execute the writ of restitution. Della's face went white. Stuart started to protest, but his attorney put a hand on his shoulder. That is the judgment of this court. Case closed. We walked out. Della and Stuart remained in the courtroom, stunned. It's over, Calvin, Martin said, a touch of satisfaction in his voice. 3 days. They won't make trouble with a sheriff deadline hanging over them. I drove home. The clock was ticking. I didn't see Della or Stuart that evening. No music, no slamming doors, just silence. They were packing, or planning their next move. Monday, July 22nd, 11:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the deadline. I sat at my desk in my office, which felt fully mine again. I heard the front door slam, then the heavy, dragging sound of suitcases across the hardwood floor. I walked to the window. Stuart's rusty pickup truck was backed up to the porch. He was loading the last of their things, including my navy blue terry cloth bathrobe, which he tossed into the bed of the truck with a shrug. Della emerged last. She walked to the center of the driveway, turned, and looked at my house. Then she looked across the yard, up at my window, directly at me. There was no fury this time, only cold, absolute hatred. She didn't wave or shout. She just turned and got into the truck. Stuart got in, fired up the engine, and peeled out of the driveway, tire spitting a small amount of gravel onto my lawn. The house was silent. My house. My bedroom was empty. I walked slowly through the living room, touching the back of my leather recliner. I went to the kitchen and unscrewed the cap of my whiskey bottle. It was full. I walked up the stairs to my master bedroom. The mattress was stripped, the room empty, save for a small pile of dust. I opened the bathroom door. Stuart's electric razor was gone. My glass was clean. I opened the window and breathed in the fresh air. I was 67 years old. I had spent 2 months fighting a war for dignity, for respect, for a piece of paper that already held my name. But now the space was clear. I was alone, but I was home. The loss of my son was a hole that would never close, but the loss of my self-respect was a wound that had finally healed. I returned to my office and pulled up my file. I changed the folder name from eviction documentation to property records. Then I shut down my computer. The silence was deep, final, and perfectly mine. One evening, she confronted me directly in the hallway. Your counterclaim is fiction. It's the truth. You know what you promised. I promised you affordable rent, nothing more. Roy would have wanted me to have this house. Don't use my son to justify your lies. The judge will decide who's lying. She walked away. I added it to my log. July 6th, 7:15 p.m., direct confrontation. Exploitation of Roy's memory for legal advantage. Stuart grew bolder, too. Found me in the kitchen one evening. Heard you're scrambling for paperwork. I'm organizing documentation. Della's got her side of the story. Court might believe her. Court will believe bank records and property deeds. We'll see about that, old man. Yes, we will in 12 days. Martin called July 7th. Her attorney is bottom tier, but he's created complications. They'll attack your credibility. Question your motives. My motives are simple. It's my house. They refuse to leave. I spent the next evenings organizing everything into 3 binders. Martin called it airtight. Thursday night, July 10th. I sat in my office organizing documents. Downstairs, Stuart's television blared. I heard bottles clinking. Around 10:20, I needed water. I opened my office door, listened. The TV continued. I walked down the hallway toward the stairs. Stuart stood at the bottom, waiting. Where are you going, Wallace? To the kitchen. Excuse me. He blocked the stairs, red-faced, swaying slightly. We need to talk. Not tonight. You've been drinking. I'm fine. You're the problem. I stopped 3 steps up. Move aside, Stuart. Make me, old man. Della appeared from the kitchen. Dad, leave him alone. Stay out of this. Stuart kept his eyes on me. You're destroying our lives with your lawsuit. You refuse to leave. This is the consequence. He started up the stairs. Your son would be ashamed of you. Don't talk about Roy. Truth hurts, doesn't it? He reached the landing, close enough that I smelled the whiskey. Throwing out your own family. I'm not doing this tonight. Let me pass. He stepped directly in front of me. You're not going anywhere until you listen. Step back now. Or what? His hands came up fast. Two-handed shove hard against my chest. I stumbled backward, hit the wall. My phone slipped from my pocket. That's assault, Stuart. I grabbed my phone, back toward my office. Drop the lawsuit or it gets worse. Stay away from me. I reached my office, slammed the door, locked it. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Dialed 911. I've been assaulted in my home. I need police. I gave my address, described the situation. I heard Stuart pounding on the door. A female officer, Torres, arrived. I unlocked my office. Mr. Wallace, you called 911. Stuart Turner. He's been drinking. Confronted me in the hallway, pushed me. I showed her the red mark on my chest. She took photos with her phone. Any other injuries? No, I called immediately. Good. Wait here. She left. 20 minutes later, Torres returned. I've issued Mr. Turner a formal warning for assault. This goes on record. Any repeat, and he will be arrested. She handed me a card. You can file for a restraining order. Is that necessary? Given the situation, eviction case, escalating behavior, I'd recommend it. How do I do that? Courthouse tomorrow. Bring this report number. You'll get a temporary order quickly. Friday morning, I called Martin. Stewart assaulted me last night. Police came. Absolutely. We're filing today. This actually helps our case. We went to the courthouse that morning, filed a petition for temporary restraining order, attached the police report and photos. Tuesday afternoon, July 14th, the sheriff served Stewart with the restraining order. I watched from my office window. Stewart read the document on the front porch. In practical terms, he couldn't enter the same room as me, couldn't speak to me, couldn't approach me, for days until a judge decided who stayed and who left. I woke at 6, though I'd barely slept. July 18th, hearing day. I stood before the bathroom mirror and ran the razor over my face with a steady hand. I selected a tie from my closet, dark blue, conservative. The evidence binders sat on my desk ready. Martin said to trust the documentation. I did. I left the house before 7 o'clock, avoiding that final morning encounter. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor of the courthouse. Martin waited outside courtroom 4C. Ready, as I'll ever be. Remember, answer only what's asked. Don't elaborate. The evidence speaks for itself. Down the hall, Della emerged with Stewart and a man I didn't recognize, Glenn Ryder. Della's eyes were red. Stewart glared but maintained distance. The restraining order created invisible walls. The bailiff opened the courtroom doors at 9:30. All rise. The Multnomah County Circuit Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Patricia Henderson presiding. Judge Henderson settled behind the bench. Case number 25 CV 247, Wallace versus Turner. Counselors, are both parties ready to proceed? Martin stood. Ready, Your Honor. This is a straightforward eviction case. Mr. Wallace owns the property, provided proper 30-day notice. Ms. Turner refused to vacate. We're here to enforce his property rights. Ryder stood next. Your Honor, this case involves more than property law. Mrs. Turner is the widow of Mr. Wallace's late son. Mr. Wallace promised her security. She contributed substantially to the property's maintenance. Evicting her violates fundamental principles of fairness and family obligation. Judge Henderson made notes. Let's see the evidence. Mr. Cho. Martin began the methodical presentation. Property deed. Calvin James Wallace, sole owner. Rent records. 60 months at $300. $18,000 total. Invoices. Roof repair, water heater, windows. All showing Calvin as payer. Recent documentation. Police report from July 10th, assault. Restraining order, July 14th. Mr. Wallace, please take the stand. I answered Martin's questions directly. Yes, I own the property. Yes, Della lived there month to month. Ryder stood for cross-examination. You allowed your daughter-in-law to live in your home for 5 years at well below market rate. That suggests a family relationship, not a landlord-tenant relationship. It was both. I helped family, but the arrangement was always month to month. Judge Henderson intervened. Mr. Wallace, did you ever promise Miss Turner she could live there permanently? No, Your Honor. Della took the stand next. She cried when mentioning Roy, claiming I'd promised her the house was hers, and asserted $15,000 in improvements. Martin's cross-examination was surgical. Miss Turner, can you provide a single receipt, a single canceled check for the $15,000 in repairs? I didn't keep records like that. Judge Henderson leaned forward. Miss Turner, do you have any written agreements showing Mr. Wallace promised you permanent residency? No, it was verbal. Stewart took the stand briefly. Martin brought up the assault and restraining order, and the judge cut his testimony short. After closing arguments, Judge Henderson set down her glasses. I've reviewed the evidence presented by both parties. Mr. Wallace has provided clear documentation of ownership and proper notice. Ms. Turner has provided no documentary evidence supporting her claims. Oral agreements regarding real property are generally unenforceable without corroboration. This is a straightforward case of a tenant refusing to vacate after proper notice. She signed the document with a decisive stroke. I'm granting the plaintiff's petition and issuing a writ of execution. Miss Turner, you have 7 days to vacate the premises voluntarily. If you fail to do so, the sheriff will enforce this order. Court is adjourned. Outside in the hallway, Della argued with Ryder. Stewart paced. Martin shook my hand. That went exactly as expected. 7 days. I walked to my car slowly. The writ sat on the passenger seat. Official court seal visible. 7 days for voluntary compliance, then enforcement. I knew Della wouldn't leave quietly. I pulled into traffic and drove home, already imagining what July 25th would look like. I woke at 6 o'clock and marked the calendar. Sheriff eviction day. Around 9:30, my phone buzzed. Text from the sheriff's office. ETA 10 a.m. At 10 o'clock, I watched from my office window as 2 sheriff's deputies walked to the front door. The knock was authoritative. Della answered. Her voice was high and panicked. What? No, we need more time. Ma'am, you were given 7 days. That time has expired. Stewart's voice was angry. This is ridiculous. You have 30 minutes. I suggest you start packing. Chaos erupted above me. Footsteps, drawers slamming, desperate phone calls. I stayed in my office, door locked, listening to my house being dismantled. 20 minutes in, Stewart's voice shouted toward my window. You'll regret this, Wallace. A deputy responded immediately. Sir, you have a restraining order. Watch your distance. At the 30-minute mark, a deputy knocked on my office door. Mr. Wallace, they've departed. Premises are clear. He handed me an incident report number. You'll want to change your locks immediately. Already arranged. I stood in the suddenly quiet house and took my first full breath in weeks. Then I started walking. Master bedroom, clothes scattered, drawers open, broken ceramic lamp base shattered deliberately, a large, fresh red wine stain on the white carpet, furniture scratched deeply, guest room, a fist-sized hole punched in the wall. I documented everything methodically, creating an inventory with my phone's camera. The locksmith arrived within the hour, changed every lock, and handed me the only set of keys. I moved the belongings they left on the lawn to the garage, photographed them, and planned to send formal notice about retrieval. That evening, I emailed the damage photos to Martin. Documented damages, immediate repair $3,800. Lost rent, 5 years of $2,100 monthly difference. Market rate $2,400. Paid $300. $implies dollar over $126,000. I moved my clothes back into the master closet as the sun set. I stripped the bed Stewart had used, threw the sheets directly in the trash, and put my own bedding on. Tonight, I just needed to sleep in my own bed again. 3 weeks after the eviction, I sat with repair invoices. Carpet cleaning, $600. Furniture refinishing, $800. Wall repair and painting, $300. Total immediate damage, $3,800. I called Martin. I've tallied everything. $3,800 in repairs. And the rent differential. Fair market is $2,400. That's $2,100 per month you lost. How long do you want to claim? Just the last year. I don't want to seem greedy. 12 months at $2,100 is $25,200, plus the repairs and my fees. We can file for that. Total legal costs, $36,800. Martin filed the civil complaint on August 5th. Property damage, unjust enrichment from below-market rent. The sheriff served Della 3 days later. Hearing scheduled for August 15th. What if she doesn't show up? I asked Martin. Then we get a default judgment, automatic win. If she chooses not to defend herself, that's on her. We collect via wage garnishment. They take it directly from her paycheck, 25% every month until the debt is paid. August 15th arrived. Martin and I sat at the plaintiff's table. The defendant's table remained empty. No Della, no attorney. The judge reviewed the file. The clerk verified proper service. Mr. Wallace, you're claiming damages of $36,800. repair costs, lost rental income, and legal fees. The judge noted the defendant hadn't appeared. These invoices support the repair costs. The rental analysis seems reasonable. She signed a document. Default judgment is granted in the amount of $36,800. Just like that. In the hallway afterward, Martin explained, "The judgment is now a lien. It blocks major financial transactions. The garnishment ensures she will pay it, slowly but steadily." Based on Della's income, the judgment of $36,800 will be paid back over approximately 4 to 5 years, or about 54 months, with $680 being deducted from her paycheck monthly via wage garnishment. The protagonist has successfully closed the chapter, reclaiming his dignity, his house, and establishing strict financial boundaries. Martin's investigator located Della's employer, and the court approved the wage garnishment order. The order requires withholding 25% of her disposable income, amounting to $680 monthly, sent directly to the court and then to the protagonist, Calvin. The garnishment is active, and the first payment, a check for $680, arrived a week after Martin's update, serving as tangible proof that the system worked and boundaries had been enforced. The judgment is valid for 10 years and renewable, ensuring the debt will be collected. The physical damage to the house, the wine stain, scratched furniture, and punched wall, was repaired at a total cost of $3,800. Calvin immediately listed the house for rent. A young couple, both professors from Reed College, responded. They were professional, had excellent references and credit, and agreed to the new terms. $2,200 monthly, market rate, first/last month's rent, security deposit, and a written 1-year lease. The new tenants moved in on August 28th. The relationship was established as professional and proper, generating steady income and respecting Calvin's privacy, a stark contrast to the previous 5 years. Through a casual acquaintance, Calvin learned that Della and Stewart had rented a small apartment near 82nd Avenue for $1,600 monthly, more than 5 times what she had paid him. With the $680 garnishment taking a significant toll on her finances, she was reportedly overwhelmed, and Stewart was blaming her. Calvin felt restored, not vindicated or vengeful. He had successfully established that boundaries matter. The law protects those who use it properly. Kindness without consequences, in her case, $125,000 in saved rent, can be mistaken for weakness. He set aside the first payment check and began sketching renovation plans for his own home office, better lighting, new shelving, losing himself in the satisfying, familiar process of architectural design. The conflict that had defined his summer was finished. He was home, independent, and at peace. The lesson was simple. Kindness is strength, but boundaries are necessary. You've concluded the story with a final, satisfying moment of reflection and closure for the protagonist, Calvin. The key takeaway is a theme of restoration and the importance of boundaries over exploitation. Restoration over vindication. Calvin finds satisfaction not in Della's financial struggle, but in the restoration of his dignity, his house, and the enforcement of his boundaries through proper legal procedure. The power of clarity. The protagonist concludes that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're clarity, recognizing the difference between kindness and being a doormat. Resolution. The specific conflict is resolved. The house is generating market rate income with professional tenants, and the debt is being steadily repaid via wage garnishment. Final state. Calvin is finally, truly home, signaling his emotional and physical security is restored, allowing him to move on to new projects. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.